They had MVP, bro. He could have educated them. They could have done something really highbrow, educational, creative, and they ignored it.
Let's talk about MVP saying that Triple H didn't want the Hurt Business on television. He even agreed that Triple H era is emasculating black man when a fan pointed it out. So, yikes! So the fan basically said this is crazy, and he was talking about some stuff here. He said that the current regime said no to the Hurt Business reuniting in WWE amongst a series of replies on Instagram surrounding the topic. So, I mean, what say ye in just kind of stepping back and seeing what type of black influence is there on the main roster, and what black wrestlers are doing the main roster. Now you could say NXT, but NXT's more Shawn Michaels's, adopted child at this point. And yes, Trick Williams and the other guy, Javon, I forgot his name, but they're like on the top two and they're black. And so that's good. Jada Parker or Jada, and then Jordan, she's the North American champion. She's black. And so what do you say about just the black influence with the Triple H era? Do you think that there's any weight to what MVP is saying, Vince?
Well, bro, I think two of your biggest stars on SmackDown right now with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I mean,
you think so?
I think so.
I mean, you think, but they're not tag team champions anymore. They just
I didn't say they were booked well. I said
yeah, I mean that's the point.
Well, but bro, they've been doing a lot with they've been really pushing that Carmelo Hayes a lot. He's on like every show. They've been pushing him. Back. I'm assuming, is Lashley hurt? I've not seen Lashley for a while.
He's posting him videos. I think he's coming back.
Yeah.
He's
bro,
supposed to do what?
I just see him posting like banger gym videos, just being a.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Street Profits have been there forever. Doing their thing. Now, bro, do they do? Bro, here's the question: do white writers and white creative people know how to write and book for black people? That's really the question, and the answer to that is no. The answer to that is no. Just like a white guy doesn't know how to book a woman, bro. He's not a woman. He doesn't know how to book a woman. I mean, so yes, bro, there should be more black writers. There should be more female writers, bro. But they aren't. It's always the old school wrestlers that are always writing this stuff. And you definitely need women, minorities, without a shadow of a doubt. Bro, it was very difficult for me to write for black people because I'm not black. Mm-hmm. Very difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. And why hasn't pro wrestling as a whole made those moves when it comes to diversity, to DEI stuff? Equity, inclusion, and diversity. Why haven't pro wrestling seems like it's from a corporate model? It seems like it's a bit antiquated when it comes to that type of that wave of that DEI when it comes to companies at this point. Why do you think they haven't done that?
I think it has nothing to do with race as much as it's a broken creative process. So, despite I do have African American heritage, I don't have much leeway to comment on the current scene or what MVP may have been through or seen. But I was watching this interview with Denzel Washington where he directed, and I forget the name of the movie, where he plays a father. But he was talking about race within directing, and he kind of brought up a point like Steven Spielberg directed Schindler's List. Martin Scorsese directed Goodfellas. I directed this movie. Could Martin Scorsese direct Schindler's List? Yeah, it'd probably be pretty good. Could Spielberg direct Goodfellas? Yeah, and it'd probably be pretty good. But what made the difference and why they were chosen for these roles. It's not necessarily the race, it's more so the culture they lived. So within how they lived, how they grew up, their entire culture, everything they know about life, they have a better view of the scenarios and telling the stories. So I think when creative is broken, where it's verbatim, script writing, putting people in positions, like personally, look at me, I'm Justice Warrior. I have a black champion in my company in Exodus Pro, Pretty Boy Smooth, who's managed by Pastor CeeLo. And when I write for them, I put them in a scenario and I ask, how would you react to this? What would you do with this? How would this go down for you? And they kind of tell me. And so we collaborate creatively. So I'm staying authentic to who they are, race aside, culture aside, just who they are as individuals. So I think wrestling's process of being script written, have to do it this way. Perhaps if there was more leeway of collaboration, let's put you in this position. Now, how would it go down? Well, I think this, and this. Okay, how would it go down for you? This, and this. Well, let's find an equal thing that is integrity to who you are and why you're here.
Check out BrainBuster, the daily quiz that tests your WWE knowledge with winning streaks, stats, and more. It's time to see if you're up for the challenge.
I can respect that. I do think that race does play a pretty hefty factor when it comes to who you are. I mean, when it comes to, from a cultural standpoint, ethnicity has a lot to do with it. Now, is the black culture a monolith? No, it's not monolithic at all. But I do think it is important, from a standpoint of several different dynamics, that to have those conversations with people. You mentioned something really interesting, Vince, several times over the years. One of the things that you would do when it comes to really molding and shaping a character is that you would really have conversations with them and just to find out.
Like EC3 said. Yeah. Well, bro, you got to understand with the Hurt Business, bro, this is where it was a miss from the get-go. Bro, they started the Hurt Business during the height of Black Lives Matter. Now, bro, here's the thing. Chris, you know better than anybody, especially for white people. There was a great misunderstanding to what Black Lives Matter really was. That was the perfect opportunity to tell that story and to explain that story and to educate people. And who would have been better than MVP? They totally ignored it, bro. I mean, they totally ignored it right in the middle of it. They totally ignored it. And I remember watching the show and you were hearing about Black Lives Matter every single day. And I'm like, how are these guys not talking about that? I
find that interesting. It's interesting because I think of it a couple of ways. One, how would you have translated that onto a wrestling, screen with it not seeming super corny, you know what I mean? And so, and do you have the creative staff, the creative people behind that to properly represent, BLM from a creative standpoint?
Paul Heyman couldn't do that, bro.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, he could have done it. Absolutely. I don't think that they had the creative backing, to properly represent that. And I think it would have been super corny, man. And I just don't think that they had if they had more diverse staff on the creative team.
Bro, they had MVP.
But he wasn't creative though. He wasn't.
But he. I'm sure he understood the cause. I'm sure he could have educated them on it.
Okay, well, that's a good question to you. Do you think it doesn't seem like WWE creative is willing to have those types of influences within the writing?
Bro, do you know a couple of years ago when I was working at Rocky Mountain Pro, they had not one, but 2 transgender wrestlers. 2. Bro, do you know how many hours I spent talking to these 2 individuals because I wanted to understand? I wanted to really get a grip, a grasp, and understand. I spent hours talking to these 2 women. They had MVP, bro. He could have educated them. They could have done something really highbrow, educational, creative, and they ignored it.
You think that would have been the way to go, but I think that just proves what I'm saying. That's just a testament of their lack of really investing in characters and just creating content at this point. You know what I mean? They're not really doing that investment work that they should be doing, especially from a cultural standpoint. It seems like they just would rather omit the whole thing instead of do the work to invest it. So the Hurt Business was just like,
I agree.
It was kind of like, it wasn't a thug group, you know, they were dressed in suits, but they were still a dominant black group that were dressed in suits. But at the same time, it just, like, if you look at it just on paper, like, it looks interesting, but I mean, it went south super fast, man. And Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, yes, although they had a tag team title reign, it seems like that was just the way to go, to just kind of bump the group up for a second. But then they started just like imploding, and I think they were feuding with Apollo Crews at the time. You know, they had a couple just random feuds. I think Bobby Lashley ended up winning the U.S. title, and it was a cool thing. But eventually, man, it was just a no-go when it came to that, and it didn't last long, man. So it had potential. But EC3, what do you think of MVP's criticism of the Hurt Business being booked improperly and feeling as if Triple H is holding back, you know, black men? You know, I mean, that was his thing. Like it's not about Jade and Bianca. I mean, they're black women, but MVP's argument is that he believes that WWE creative is emasculating black men at the time.
Yeah, I don't watch the product to notice that, and I can't speak for his criticisms, but I can say to the fact that, like we were talking about, MVP's the kind of guy, the kind of talent. Like you mentioned, we're just pushing out content. We don't need to put thought in it. It's not hard to, like, especially a guy like that who's uberly creative, to put that thought in and to put the things into a context that's easily digestible. It's not hard. MVP is the kind of talent you give him a boundary and just say, let's keep it right at this level. You know, maybe we cross just a little bit, but then you just let them go, because they're going to deliver and they're going to do business the right way. They're going to build themselves up. And they know at the end, you know, you win some, you lose some, babyface is heel, you trading back and forth, and whatever gets over, gets over.
Vince, when you worked at WWE, or even knowing over the past 25 years who's in the creative process, not agents, because of course we have like Jason Jordan's an agent, but was there any black person in the creative process at all?
No, none, zero, nothing.
Do you think that was intentional is a strong word?
No, I just felt they didn't think it was important.
What do you mean? Go further into that.
It wasn't important. I mean, they didn't. I don't think they understood the value in having different types of people in the creative process. Like I said, including women. And then, bro, I'm sure. Remember they brought in Dana Warrior. Remember that? I'm sure she had no influence whatsoever in anything. Bro, you need diversity when it comes to creative. I'm telling you that. Definitely do.
Yeah. It just seems to me like MVP and like an Natalia. Like if there's 2 people that would help with the diversity in the creative room, throw in MVP, throw in Natalia, some, two veterans in the game, two people who's been doing it for a long time, two people with, creative minds, it would just make sense to, for them to be thrown into that. So,
yeah. Ryan Ward's African American.
Yeah, he's black. Yeah,
he's a high level writer there too. No, so
yeah.
I don't know,
He's
that's
been
the
there for a while, too.
Yeah, I really just think at the end of the day, it's constricting talent and putting them in a box and just not letting them be the charismatic, creative, outlandish, empathetic, intellectual. Like, there's so many varieties of amazing personalities that get into this bizarre, psychotic line of work that our greatest advantage is, we're all broken people and we all have interesting stories to tell. Dare I say, someone's thought that'd be a good idea to kind of highlight a bunch of people's individual stories, call it Control Your Narrative. But then, everyone just misunderstood that because that was the whole point. I noticed when I was there, the whole purpose of that was watching someone you'd love to hang out with, you go out with, you just trade stories with, be this amazing human being with this storied life and the trials and tribulations. And then they go and here's a white piece of paper, say this verbatim, here's a red light, click, and it's just awful, terrible, where I'm like, man, if you just knew who this person was, if we can just tell that story, people would be very invested.
Which makes me think of, along the lines of what you're saying, it makes me think of a Ryan Ward. Yes, he's black, but he's been there for a while now. And Vince McMahon was notorious for last minute vetoes of creative, So it just makes me think how many Ward suggestions that Vince, got to Vince's desk is no, I'm not going to do this. It just makes me think of that.
Wait, what? Vince, how much is a gallon of milk? $10? What a disconnected psychopath. Hey, Chael Sonnen? No? Okay, we'll do that next week.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got Vince Russo, we got EC3, we got Dr. Chris. This is the Wrestling Outlaws. Have a good night, buddy. So long. Okay.